Didn't realize it was my turn. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome. My name is David Sanders. I am on the Ministerial Search Committee, and this morning I'm serving in the capacity as one of your many worship associates. We're happy to see the faces of old and new friends gathered here today. The Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Clemson is not merely a tolerant community. We are truly a welcoming congregation. We receive you here gladly, regardless of your racial or ethnic background, your age, economic status, political affiliation and voting preferences, gender expression, or sexual orientation. Our diversity is what unites us and makes us wiser and stronger. If you would like more information about UUFC, I encourage you to check out our website or speak to one of our welcome table volunteers following the service. There are many spiritual paths in this world. You will find more than one within this congregation. You will not be judged for your beliefs. In fact, here, you will not be judged for your beliefs. In fact, here your choices are respected and allowed to flourish. I hope that today's service will fill a place inside you that feels hungry for something deeper. Please accept our invitation to return, as every Sunday is quite different. And I also welcome you to join us after the service in the social hall at the other end of the hallway for coffee and visiting, and maybe a few treats. Today we are in for a special treat at the pulpit. I'd like to introduce, and she'll be joining us at the pulpit a little later after some other elements of our service. Here's to her wife, Wanda. They have 3 children. 2 are still at home. And outside of her ministry work, she is a taxi driver, gardener, crafter, and patron of the theater. Reverend Amanda has served in the UU in various capacities for the last 27 years. You may have heard of Equal Access. There's 2 U's in that. Interweave, CUUYAN, Continental UU Youth something network? Young Adult Network, thank you. And she's also served with the UUA. She served on the boards of those organizations. She's also served as a congregational fundraising consultant with the UUA, in addition to many congregational roles that she has served. Reverend Amanda is a graduate of the Starr King School for the Ministry and serves as the minister for the High Street UU Church in Macon, Georgia. She's an advocate for disability rights and strives to. Yesterday, we had the pleasure of Reverend Amanda facilitating our Beyond Categorical Thinking workshop. And for those of you that were able to join us for that yesterday, I hope you share my enthusiasm for how wonderful an experience that was. Today, she's here to speak with us on the topic of Beyond Boxes. Amanda's guilty pleasures was the same commitment to me in return if you haven't already made your pledge. Now let's take a couple of minutes to stand up and greet each other, and then we will move into our hymn, so stay standing after you've had a minute to greet. All right, please join me in singing hymn 1008 in your teal hymnals, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place.
This Faith by Heidi Kottman. Let us be a faith that gathers, reaching for one another, through the walls of hate others built, through cages of ignorance and arrogance, and through the fear that burns city streets. Let us be a faith that sees a vision of a better world, more compassionate, more just, more holy, and with more love. There is a faith that binds up the broken, cauterizes battle wounds with the balm of peace, sings longer and louder than the trumpets of war. Let us be that faith too. Let us be the ones who do not tread lightly in this world, but light it up with our love, who hold up the mirror of worth and dignity, who are the sanctuary others seek. But first, let us be a faith that worships together, here, this morning, in this space, at this moment. Let us be a faith.
Hello, I am Janie Shipley, also a member of the Ministerial Search Committee. I offer these words for our chalice lighting from Dina Vanderver. We light this chalice, symbol of our faith alive in this world, naming our vision of collective liberation and daring to remember, as opposed to remember, daring to remember each other into beloved community. Please join me in reciting the words of our affirmation that are shown in the order of service. we gather together in a spirit of love, with justice as our guide. This is our chosen covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth with freedom, and to care for one another.
Good morning. So in your order of service, it says that we're going to be reading a story that I love called We Don't Eat Our Classmates by Ryan T. Higgins. However, sometimes certain stories decide they want to be read instead. So we have a different story this morning. I'm going to invite our young at heart, if they want to come forward, they can, but you're welcome to stay where you are if you want to see the pictures. Our story today is called Patchwork by Matt de la Pena, with illustrations by Corinna Lucan. This is a brand new book. It just came out in the last couple of months. Hello, y'all. I'm sorry. I'm going to stand up here so you can hear me better, and I can actually do the pages.
It's okay. I'm here almost everyone.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Anytime.
You were blue before you were even born. We mark. We mark. Your mom cut into a 2-story cake and out spilled blue, and everyone hugged and pointed toward the cloudless blue sky because it was a sign. And here you are today, blue dressed in blue. But sometimes your paintbrush at school hovers above the pink. Some days, so much hurt floods your eyes, you're scared to even blink. But tears are not pink or blue or weak. They are human. You are human. And when you grow up, the color you will come to love most is brown. You were put on this earth to dance. We know. We know. Ballet, tap, hip-hop, your body bending to the beat, leaping from note to note, dipping into demi-plie. You dream in 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. But those rhythms inside your head are also a kind of math, and one day you will discover coding and change the way the world moves. You go everywhere with a ball in your hands. We see. We see. You are basketball, baseball, football, any kind of ball, and you were born to compete. Even in defeat, the game feeds you. It leads you. But soon you will see your sport for what it really is, and expression. A sound of the bouncing ball is the language of your loneliness. You are bilingual, and one day you will carry your words with you instead. You will spin complete couplets on your finger because you've always been a poet. You are the kid who perpetually is in time out. We sigh, we sigh. You shove and cut lines, you talk over teachers, you tell jokes during the pledge, and your whole body buzzes when you get a reaction. Does that sound familiar to some of you? Yeah. But the skill it takes to make people laugh is the skill you'll use to help people learn when you become a favorite teacher. And when the restless kid like you lands in the back of your class, you will see her. You will love her. You are kind to everyone and everything. We beam. We beam. You know what that means, to beam with pride? Yeah. When you win, it feels like a loss. The disappointment of another is a knot inside your stomach. You sit beside the new kid at lunch and give away your only cookie. But do not mistake kindness for weakness. You are a powerful magnet pulling people. Crowds will one day swarm to your ideas, and they will look to you for guidance, eager to follow, and they will follow. You are more than a single note played again and again. You are sounds plucked from all the places that you've been and all the people that you've met and all the feelings that you've felt. You are blues and pinks and loneliness and laughter, mismatched scraps accumulated over time and stitched together in a kind of patchwork. And even when your pattern loses its design, when it grows lopsided or tangles or is hard to follow, it will be beautiful. Because we all are beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing a story with me.
My name is Karen York, not Leslie. We know that our financial contributions to this congregation come from sacrifice and hard work. We are so grateful for this and commit together to ensure the funds we gather collectively do a greater good for ourselves and our world than they could have done alone. May there be an offering to sustain and grow the life and mission of this congregation. May we give in love and in hope. As we are gathered this morning, we share together our joys and concerns. Okay, here is She didn't mark it joy or sorrow. This is from Rose Howard. Midterm election division of our country and the violence as a result. That's her concern. This is from Elizabeth Branstead. Her joy is that she traveled with a Rhodes Scholar group for a week-long civil rights tour of Atlanta, Selma, Birmingham. That's pretty cool. Yeah. Elaine Faithful said that a brain scan this week, Parkinson's is confirmed. Sorry. Yeah. He loved her visit, and he does need surgery. Meg has traveled to Tennessee to be with her during her recovery. We also would like to acknowledge first-time visitors by placing a stone in for them as well. And this last stone is for all that has not been shared yet. Now we'll sing the children on their way.
Good morning. My name is Mary Orm, and I, along with all these awesome people over here, are part of your Ministerial Search Committee. Our reading today is called The Truck Driver by Gordon B. McKeeman, adapted. The other day, I was driving on an expressway. These days, expressway driving seems a frantic enterprise. Near one of the exit ramps, one of the highway denizens, a behemoth semi, had pulled over onto the berm. The driver had emerged and was gathering some wild plants along the side of the road. In that moment, another stereotype bit the dust. I know what truck drivers are like. They're strong, burly masters of profanity, rootless gypsies who have neither homes nor families. They care not a whit for sunset flowers. But now I have seen one take the time to stop and look carefully at the splendor by the roadside. I've been by that very spot numerous times. Not once did I take the time or the trouble to stop and look at the miracle of leaf and flower. Goodbye, shattered image. I think I shall not miss you at all. You were, it should be said, quite convenient. You allowed me the luxury of not having to think of truck drivers as real people, as varied as the vast diversity of wildflowers. Stereotypic thinking does not impart solidity or dimensionality to an object. Quite the opposite. It dispenses with the details and eliminates the idiosyncrasies of individuals by making them members of a class of things, all of which have identical characteristics. Well, all truck drivers do have a common characteristics. They all do drive trucks. That may exhaust the list of characteristics that they share. There's one of them, at least, who notices what is growing beside the road, which is quite a feat, actually, at 70 miles an hour. As the number of people inhabiting our globe grows, so I suppose will the temptation to group people into classes, apply labels to them, and mistake the label for the far more complex reality. Perhaps the image of the truck driver stopping to gather wildflowers by the side of the road can be a reminder of how perilous, how depersonalizing, how diminishing such stereotypes can be. I've had a number of stereotypes pasted on me. As I pause to think about them, I like my own name better than any of them. I have a hunch that others like their names as well, far better than a label. The struggle to maintain a sense of importance for each of us may be long and often difficult. The challenge is quite extraordinary every ordinary day.
I'd like to ask your search committee to rise as they are willing and able. They didn't know I was going to ask them that. if you would show these people some love. They are doing hard work and good ministry on your behalf. I have 2 mommies, she exclaimed in that resounding voice that only a toddler can master. The kind of voice that demands your attention and seems to have a permanently broken volume control. There, standing in the grocery checkout line early on a Saturday morning, my then 2-year-old daughter Nora had once again decided that the friendly cashier, who had simply asked her how old she was, clearly wanted to know if she had a mommy and a daddy. This scene had played out several times over the preceding weeks in the bank line, at the doctor's office, the checkout line for anywhere that we were. Nora seemed to be wholly possessed by this one particular fact of her life, and 30 feet of her. Every time before, the scene proceeded a lot like a scripted play. The cashier looked at me, confusion and searching written all over her face. "What did you say, honey?" And like every time before, I quickly jumped in. "You know, toddlers, who knows what she says? I don't understand her half the time. My, what a beautiful ring you're wearing." Only this time was different. This time, my precious child sat in the cart in front of me, right at eye level. And this time, I couldn't help but catch her gaze and see the shame and the confusion starting to take root there. This time, I felt the anguish of a parent who had taught her child a lesson that I instantly wished I could take back. Because in that moment of rapid diversion, that verbal sleight of hand, the redirection of a potentially uncomfortable confrontation, I taught my daughter to be ashamed of our family. I had taught her fear. I taught her the beginning steps of a dance that I swore to protect her from. Because I made a quick decision to neatly pack up that moment in a box, tie it with a pretty ribbon, one that made my existence as both a parent and a lesbian easier for her to understand, or better yet, just ignore. Now, from the earliest of ages, we learned to put things into categories. Any Sesame Street fan, parent of a Sesame Street fan, I'm sure you know the song. One of these things is not like the other. One of these things just doesn't belong. You know that at 1 year old, we are able to distinguish differences. And those categories, they provide our lives with order, structure, understanding, and even comfort. They let us know where people or things belong. Now, I know I've spent a lot of time in my life thinking about where I belong, and I'm sure you have too. Yesterday, I asked you to think about who belongs here with you, in this community, in this pulpit. I invited you to unpack your boxes to see what is held and maybe even what's hiding inside of some of them. Now, to understand how I came into this work, you have to know a little bit about me. As you've been told, I grew up in Alabama, the first grandchild in a very large, very proper Southern family. I was brought up to be attentive to all the best Southern graces. I attended Miss Mary's School for Young Ladies, and I can still set a formal table with my eyes closed. I attended college. I was active in my community. I performed in voice, theater, and concert symphony. I was the apple of my family's eye. And I sat on a pedestal that was not only high, but precariously grounded in my ability to do no wrong, and for God's sake, do not embarrass the family. Needless to say, My fall from that pedestal? Yeah, it was a long but really quick descent. I was 22 years old when I came out as a lesbian and gay rights activist on CNN. Yeah, you heard me, CNN, your choice for up-to-the-minute news. Giving an interview to a local TV station at the annual Gay Pride Festival in Birmingham, while still mostly in the closet, not one of my brightest ideas. But I never could have imagined that CNN would pick up the feed or that some aunt 3 times removed would happen to be watching at that very moment and call my very, very conservative grandmother. The fallout was not pretty. My mother had known my secret for a while, and she's fantastic and really only cared about my safety and happiness. I wish I could say the same for the rest of my family, who for nearly 12 years felt betrayed, ashamed, and horribly embarrassed. Now I'm happy to say that after time and great-grandchildren, things have greatly improved, and my family now accepts and loves my wife and my children with open arms, at least behind closed doors. I had only unpacked my identity in a very limited way for my family. I allowed them to only see the pieces of me that I thought they could handle. They only saw the proper, well-mannered, always amenable, and eager to please side of me. And it could be argued that if they had dug a little deeper, looked a little harder, and quite honestly, if I had felt a little bit safer, they would have seen other sides of my life. They would have found another side of me, another aspect that makes me uniquely who I am. Unfortunately, once they were allowed to see those parts of my identity that identify me as a lesbian, all other accomplishments and identities were lost in a glaring background of what they saw as my differences from them. Gone were all of my accomplishments in theater. Gone were the thousands of volunteer hours that earned me scholarship to college. Gone. It was all gone. And it was replaced, my beloved identities were replaced by an otherness, an inability to see me as a whole person. Emerson wrote, "People only see what they're prepared to see." And I can tell you from experience that our lives seldom prepare us to challenge what we think we know. On New Year's Eve in 2000, I came out to a former college roommate. And for the next year, she would randomly introduce me as, "This is my lesbian friend, Amanda." And I could never quite decide if that was a pronouncement as a badge of honor or perhaps a tidy warning label. Now, I believe that fair is fair. So I ventured to introduce her by saying, "This is my Republican friend, Emily." That didn't go over so well. But I'm sure you see my point. Even though she had known me for years prior to my coming out, by labeling me, she had created a social shorthand, boxing me up neatly to give social cues to the rest of the world. And she had also unintentionally stripped me of all other identity. I'm confident that there's not one person sitting in here today who is one-dimensional. We have all spent our lives trying on new identities, casting off those which we outgrow, and evolving into who we are here today, in this moment, in this space. We've learned how to package up our identities, and when it is necessary, and far too often only when it is safe, to unpack those identities for the rest of the world. There was a man in my life for a time, Eli, who taught me a great deal about the fluid nature of categories and identities. When I met Eli in college, I knew him as Sarah. And over the course of several years, Sarah faded away and Eli emerged. Now identifying as a transgender man, Eli walks through the world on the cusp of identity. Many of the people he comes in contact with still remain confused by his sometimes murky gender presentation. They seem to be, what's the right word? They seem to be worried that what he presents is a challenge to their own understanding, their own identity. His physical transition from female to spends most of his time trying to put himself in a box that is easier for other people to handle, and it consumes all of his energy. Although our lives have long since gone in separate directions, during the many years that we dated, his physical transition from female to male caused a lot of concern among people who know me as a lesbian. The inevitable question varied in form, but it was always looking for the same thing. So, are you straight now? I still remain absolutely confounded by this need to box me up, and my first question that comes to mind is, so does it really matter? Now, what I've shared with you are just mere fragments of my story, small snapshots of a lifetime. My identity has shaped me, it's hindered me, and at times, it's made me sad. But it has compelled me to become a beyond categorical thinking facilitator. And my experiences with identity constantly reaffirm my belief that it is essential to hear each other's stories and to understand each other's truths, to meet people where they are, lest we fall into the trap of boxing them up for our own comfort. On that Saturday morning, as I buckled her into her car seat, Nora spoke for the first time since I hurriedly redirected the cashier's attention. I have 2 mommies. She said it in a near whisper. And as I looked in those sapphire blue eyes that mirror my own, I couldn't help but feel the tears well up. I shook my head in affirmation. I was afraid my voice would betray me. I laid my head to her forehead, our gesture of shared affection since her birth. Yes, I said, very much. And there it was, from the heart of a child who could not be swayed, demanding to be acknowledged for her story, for her identity separate from my own. I was reminded again that this work never ends. The boxes that we pull behind us, the boxes we struggle to break out of, the boxes where we seek refuge, they must never, never be allowed to be the sole measure of our identity. Because there's not a box big enough to contain our messy and ever-changing lives. Now this weekend, I've asked you to look inside those boxes. I asked you to dig deep into the dark, maybe even scary places. I asked you to share some of your stories. I've asked you to stretch, to bust a few seams here and there. But more than anything, I've asked you to witness the transformative power of really knowing someone beyond labels, beyond categories, and most certainly beyond boxes. And it is my prayer that you'll continue these conversations and build a beloved community that can never be contained in boxes. Amen. Blessed be, and I say. If you will please rise and body your spirit and join us in singing hymn number 407, Gonna Sit at the Welcome Table. And this is a rousing hymn, so let's be roused.
Hallelujah, we're Hi. I'm Melissa Afgola, and I am the last person you're going to see from the ministerial search today. So, but I sit on the committee with these wonderful people, and we're doing all we can to find the right fit for this congregation. So, on behalf of that, from me personally, I want to thank everybody here today. You guys, I love you. I love you. They teach us to read in black and white. Truth is truth, and the rest is false. You are whole, or you are broken. Who you love is acceptable, or not. Life tells us its truth in many hues. We are taught to think in either or. We are taught to believe the teachings, of Jesus or of Buddha, to believe in human potential or a powerful beyond a single will. I am broken or I am powerful. Life embraces multiple truths, speaks of both and of and. We are taught to see in absolutes, good versus evil, male versus female, old versus young. Let us see the fractions, the spectrums in the margins. Let us open our complexity of the worlds. Let us make our lives sanctuaries to nurture our many identities. The day is coming when all will know that the rainbow world is way more gorgeous than the monochrome. That a river of identities can ebb and flow over static, stubborn rocks in its course. That the margins hold the center. As you travel from this space today, may you please remember what the lessons of the lessons that you were taught here. Take it forward and spread it with love. Blessed be.
That was really...